You think the problem is what people say about you. It's not. The real problem is what they never say, what they think in silence, what they decide about you before you even speak, what happens in the space between their smile and their real opinion. That gap is where your reputation lives or dies, and most people have no idea it even exists. Here's the fundamental law of social dynamics. People judge you constantly, but they rarely tell you. Your reputation is not built through your explanations. It's built in their private thoughts, in their whispered conversations, in the stories they tell about you when you're not in the room. The moment you start defending yourself, you've already lost ground. That's the game nobody teaches you, and the people who understand it control every room they enter. In this video, you're going to learn 3 critical things. First, the hidden psychology behind why people judge you even when you've done nothing wrong. Second, the 5 micro-signals that reveal when someone is silently evaluating and ranking you. Third, 3 practical protocols you can implement immediately to stop defending yourself and start controlling how others perceive you without saying a word. This isn't about becoming likable. This is about becoming undeniable. Stay focused, because I'm going to give you a precise 60-second script you can use to set boundaries without sounding defensive, weak, or aggressive. It works in professional settings, family dynamics, and social situations. You'll want to internalize this framework because it changes everything about how you show up in the world. Let's start with the reality of what's actually happening around you every single day. Every room you enter is a stage. Every person you meet is performing. Not because they're dishonest, but because social survival demands it. You smile at your boss even when you're exhausted and resentful. You compliment a colleague's mediocre idea because the political cost of honesty is too high. You laugh at jokes that aren't remotely funny because silence would create awkwardness. This is completely normal. This is how human beings navigate complex social hierarchies. But here's what most people fundamentally miss. While you're carefully managing your own mask, everyone else in the room is simultaneously watching yours. They're comparing your performance against their internal template of how someone in your position should behave. They're measuring you against their expectations. And the moment you deviate from that script even slightly, the judgment begins. Not loudly, not obviously, silently. A micro-expression of surprise, a half-second delay before they respond. A smile that engages their mouth but never quite reaches their eyes. You feel it on an instinctive level, but you can't articulate it. That feeling is the trap. You sense disapproval, but you lack concrete evidence. So you start second-guessing every word you said. You replay the conversation obsessively in your mind. You construct elaborate defenses for imaginary accusations. And that's exactly where they want you. Uncertain, destabilized, easy to influence and control. Now let's examine the deeper mechanism. Why does judgment happen in the first place? Because human beings are hardwired to establish and maintain social hierarchies. It's not personal, it's evolutionary. Every time someone evaluates you, they're unconsciously answering 3 fundamental questions. Question 1, does this person threaten my status or position? Question 2, does this person follow the same rules and norms I follow? Question 3, can I accurately predict this person's behavior? If the answer to any of these questions is no or unclear, judgment activates immediately. Here's the precise mechanism. When you achieve something significant, you inadvertently become a mirror. Your success reflects back their lack of equivalent success. That creates psychological discomfort, so their mind automatically looks for flaws in your achievement. They minimize it. They attribute it to external factors like luck, timing, connections, or privilege. Anything except your actual competence or effort. This is classical psychological projection. Their anxiety about their own status and progress gets unconsciously transferred onto you. Then there's the phenomenon of norm policing. Every social group operates according to invisible rules, unspoken dress codes, acceptable speech patterns, shared beliefs about what behaviors are appropriate. When you violate these invisible norms, even accidentally or unknowingly, the group initiates a correction process. Not through direct confrontation, through coldness, through subtle distance, through strategic exclusion from conversations and opportunities. This isn't personal malice, this is enforcement. The group is protecting its collective identity by punishing deviation from established norms. And finally, there's the prediction problem. Human beings feel psychologically safe when they can accurately predict the behavior of people around them. When you're inconsistent, when you surprise them, when you don't fit neatly into their mental model of who you are, they experience that as a threat to their sense of control. And threatened people judge aggressively. They construct narratives about you to regain their sense of predictability and control. You're arrogant, you're inauthentic, you're trying too hard. These narratives have nothing to do with objective reality. They're psychological defense mechanisms, but you'll bear the social consequences regardless. So, how do you actually know when judgment is happening? Here are 5 concrete signals to watch for. Signal 1, the backhanded compliment. They offer praise, but there's a barb hidden inside it. You did surprisingly well, all things considered. That's actually impressive for someone with your background. The surface-level words sound supportive, but the underlying message is cutting. Signal 2, post-applause silence. You share a significant achievement or win, and people offer perfunctory applause or congratulations. But nobody asks follow-up questions. Nobody wants additional details. The conversation moves on with suspicious speed. That's judgment disguised as polite acknowledgement. Signal 3, unsolicited moral guidance. They tell you what you should be doing, how you should be feeling, what you should be prioritizing. Not because you requested their input, but because they need to position themselves as morally or strategically superior to you. Signal 4, the energy mismatch. You bring enthusiasm or vulnerability to a conversation, and they respond with flatness or superficiality. You share something meaningful, and they deflect to something trivial. They're deliberately withholding reciprocal energy. That's a control mechanism. Signal 5, the conversational redirect. You're sharing your experience, and they immediately steer the conversation toward their own story, not as collaborative dialogue, but as correction. As if your narrative needed their narrative to legitimize or complete it. When you observe 3 or more of these signals in a single interaction, you're being actively judged. And here's the devastating part. You've probably already started defending yourself without even realizing it. Here's the paradox that nobody warns you about. The higher you rise, the harsher the judgment becomes. Success doesn't insulate you from social evaluation. It intensifies it exponentially, because now the stakes are higher. Now you're a more threatening mirror. Now your consistency matters more to people's sense of their own status. Most people operate under the false assumption that if they just achieve enough, prove enough, explain enough, the judgment will eventually stop. It will not. It compounds. It accelerates. So the real question isn't how to avoid being judged. That's impossible. The real question is how to navigate judgment without losing your sense of self, without compromising your direction, without giving away your power. That's what the protocols are designed to solve. How to protect your reputation when words and explanations cannot save you. Let's anchor this with recognizable patterns. Look at any rapid ascent in any field. A person rises faster than their peer group. They outpace the people they started alongside. Suddenly, the colleagues who used to be supportive go quiet, not overtly hostile, just distant, noticeably colder. Why does this happen with such predictability? Because rapid ascent violates an unspoken social contract. The implicit agreement says we all rise together at roughly the same pace, facing roughly the same struggles. When you break that contract by accelerating past the group, you become the outsider. The group doesn't attack you directly. That would be too obvious. Instead, they stop vouching for you. They stop defending you in conversations where you're not present. They let negative rumors breathe and spread without contradiction. And in social systems, strategic silence is lethal. Your reputation erodes not from what people actively say against you, but from what they deliberately don't say in your favor. Then there's the competence trap. You demonstrate high competence in a particular domain, so people unconsciously elevate their expectations across all domains. When you inevitably show a flaw, a knowledge gap, a moment of uncertainty in some other area, the judgment is disproportionately harsh. Why? Because you violated their idealized image of you. They're not actually judging you. They're judging their own disappointment at discovering you're human, but you absorb all the social consequences. And finally, there's what I call the visibility tax. The more visible you become, the more people feel entitled to evaluate every aspect of you. Every public statement, every decision, every move. You transition from being a person to being a public commodity, and the public is never merciful toward what it believes it owns. These aren't exceptions or edge cases. These are reliable patterns, and the only way to navigate them successfully is to completely stop playing defense. Let's talk about the first critical mistake: over-explanation. You feel judged, so your immediate instinct is to explain yourself. You provide extensive context. You meticulously justify your choices. You walk them through your entire reasoning process. You believe that radical transparency will resolve the tension and clear the air. It will not. It makes everything significantly worse, because every explanation broadcasts a signal that their opinion holds power over you. A signal that you're uncertain about your own decisions, a signal that you require their validation to feel legitimate. And the moment they detect that need, the judgment intensifies. They don't respect the explanation. They resent the neediness radiating beneath it. So stop. Stop explaining your choices to people who didn't earn the right to understand them. Stop defending decisions you've already made. Stop attempting to control their perception of you through words. Words are cheap currency. They've heard sophisticated words before. What they haven't encountered is someone who can occupy their position with absolute certainty without requiring external validation. That's what fundamentally shifts perception. Not what you say, what you strategically refuse to say. The second critical mistake is seeking approval. You modify your natural behavior to align with their expectations. You soften your edges to avoid friction. You dim your intensity to make them comfortable. You laugh at their mediocre jokes, even when they're not funny. You agree with their opinions, even when you fundamentally disagree. You do this because you've conflated acceptance with safety. They're not the same thing. Acceptance is temporary and conditional. Respect is permanent and unconditional. And you cannot earn genuine respect through shapeshifting, because shapeshifters are transparent. People instinctively recognize that they can influence and move you. And what can be moved can be controlled. You don't need them to like you. You need them to understand that your behavior and decisions are not contingent on their approval. That's the fundamental shift in frame, from chasing acceptance to embodying unwavering consistency. When you stop performing for their psychological comfort, they start paying attention to your actual competence. That's the precise moment when judgment begins transforming into respect, not 1 second before. Now let's get concrete and practical. Protocol 1, the sem defacer rule. No defense. When someone judges you, whether directly or through subtle implication, you do not defend yourself. You do not explain. You do not justify. You acknowledge and move forward. Here's the execution. They make a cutting remark or questioning statement. You feel the emotional sting. Instead of countering or correcting, you deploy one of 3 responses. I hear you. That's your perspective. Noted. That's the complete response. No elaboration, no emotional charge, no invitation to continue the discussion. Just clean acknowledgement and immediate closure. What this accomplishes is twofold. First, it terminates the evaluation loop. They cannot pull you into an extended debate about your worth or your choices. Second, it demonstrates unshakable confidence. Only genuinely secure people can hear criticism without needing to immediately dismantle it. And authentic security is magnetic. People are drawn to it even when they don't particularly like you. The effect is immediate and observable. The person attempting to judge you will either escalate their attack, which exposes their agenda and makes them look unreasonable, or they'll back off completely, which gives you space and reestablishes boundaries. Either outcome favors you, because you refuse to give them the satisfaction of watching you scramble to defend yourself. Protocol 2, the 60-second boundary script. This protocol is specifically designed for situations where judgment crosses the line into interference. When someone attempts to dictate how you should live, what you should prioritize, how you should feel about your own circumstances, you need a boundary. But most people establish boundaries defensively. They get visibly emotional. They explain at length why the other person is wrong or overstepping. That approach signals weakness. Here's the strong version. Structure it in 3 distinct parts: condition, limit, consequence. Part 1, the condition. I appreciate that you have thoughts about this. Part 2, the limit. I've already worked through this decision and I'm clear on my direction. Part 3, the consequence. If my position changes, I'll reach out. Complete. 60 seconds maximum. No aggression, no apologizing. Just a crystalline boundary that signals you are not currently accepting input you did not explicitly request. What this does is fundamentally reframe the dynamic. You're not defending your choice or trying to convince them you're right. You're clarifying that the decision is closed, and closed loops cannot be pried open through pressure or manipulation. People will test this boundary once, possibly twice. When you hold the line without flinching or wavering, they'll stop, not because they suddenly agree with you, because they realize you are immovable. And immovable people don't get judged persistently. They get observed and eventually respected. Protocol 3, the reputation flywheel. This is the long-term strategy. You cannot defend your reputation in real time through words. You can only construct it over time through consistent action. The flywheel consists of 3 specific actions repeated on a weekly basis that create visible and verifiable consistency. Action 1. Deliver on one small public commitment, something you explicitly said you would do that others can observe and verify. A deadline, a promise, a follow-through. Action 2, acknowledge one person's contribution without expecting credit or recognition in return. Shine light on someone else's work. This signals both generosity and internal security. Action 3, identify and correct one mistake quickly and without drama. Don't hide errors. Name them clearly, fix them efficiently, move forward. What this flywheel accomplishes is it replaces defensive explanations with behavioral evidence. People gradually stop judging you because your consistent actions answer their questions before they verbalize them. Are you reliable? Yes. Here's documented proof over months. Are you secure? Yes, you regularly elevate others. Are you honest? Yes, you own mistakes immediately. This isn't manipulation or performance. This is strategic architecture. You're constructing a reputation that defends itself, so you never have to. And the less you defend, the more people instinctively trust you. Because trust is never built on words. Trust is built on observable, repeated patterns over time. Here's a rapid diagnostic. Take 60 seconds and answer these 5 questions honestly. In the past 30 days, have you noticed people giving you noticeably short or clipped responses when you share positive news or achievements? Have you found yourself explaining your decisions in detail to people who didn't actually ask for an explanation? Do you feel a knot of anxiety in your stomach before certain social or professional interactions, as if you're about to be evaluated or tested? Have you modified your natural behavior in specific groups purely to avoid creating friction or discomfort? Have you repeatedly replayed conversations in your mind, analyzing what you might have done wrong or how you were perceived? If you answered yes to 3 or more of these questions, you are currently operating in reactive mode. You're responding to judgment instead of controlling it. This is completely fixable, but you need to immediately stop defending and start systematically applying the 3 protocols. Take one specific situation from the past week where you felt judged. Write it down, then rewrite your response using the sem defacer rule. That's your practical homework. Let's apply these protocols to real scenarios so you can see the transferability. Scenario 1, professional environment. Your manager questions your approach during a team meeting. Old instinctive response. You launch into an extended explanation of your reasoning. You defend your process step by step. You attempt to prove that you're right and they're misunderstanding. New response using sem defacer. I hear your concern. I'm confident in this direction. If the results indicate otherwise, I'll adjust accordingly. No defense, no lengthy justification, just clarity and confidence. Scenario 2, family dynamic. A relative criticizes your career choice during a family dinner. Old instinctive response, you justify why your choice makes sense. You list your achievements. You try to earn their approval and validation. New response using the 60-second boundary script. I appreciate that you care about my future. I've thought this through carefully and I'm clear on my path. If that changes, I'll let you know. No argument, no pleading, just a clean boundary. Scenario 3, social setting. A friend makes a backhanded comment about your recent success or life change. Old instinctive response, you downplay your achievement. You make a self-deprecating joke. You try to make them feel comfortable at your own expense. New response, brief pause, slight smile. That's one interpretation. Then you smoothly move the conversation forward. No engagement with the judgment, just acknowledgement and momentum. Same core protocols, completely different contexts. The pattern holds across all of them. When you stop offering yourself up for judgment, people stop attacking. Because there's no opening, you're not giving them anything to grab onto. Now let's talk about the 2 primary risks and how to mitigate them. Risk 1, overcalibration. You apply these protocols so rigidly and mechanically that you come across as cold, emotionally detached, or robotic. That's not the objective. The objective is calm, grounded confidence, not emotional shutdown or avoidance. Calibrate by monitoring your tone and energy. Are you delivering these responses with warmth and groundedness, or with ice and defensiveness? Warmth, combined with firmness, signals authentic strength. Ice signals hidden fear. Adjust your delivery accordingly. Risk 2, isolation. You establish so many boundaries and maintain such tight control that you inadvertently push everyone away. You become the person who never lets anyone in, never shows vulnerability, never allows genuine connection. That's not protection, that's voluntary exile. Mitigate this by intentionally choosing 1 or 2 people who have genuinely earned your trust and being selectively vulnerable with them. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world, but someone does. Don't confuse strategic boundaries with impenetrable walls. Boundaries are selective and intentional. Walls are total and indiscriminate. You want boundaries, not walls. The balance looks like this. Be genuinely open with the few people who have earned that access through consistent trustworthiness. Maintain firm boundaries with everyone else. That's how you protect your energy and attention without sacrificing your humanity. Let's close this loop completely. People will judge you, always, in every context. That fundamental reality will never change. But judgment only damages you if you react to it, if you defend against it, if you explain yourself into exhaustion, if you shapeshift desperately to earn approval that will never be freely given. The precise moment you stop doing those things, judgment loses its power over you. Your reputation is not constructed through your defenses or explanations. Your reputation is built in your silence, in your unwavering consistency, in the growing gap between what they expect from someone like you and what you actually deliver. You do not need to be universally liked. You need to be absolutely clear. Clear on who you are, clear on what you do, clear on where your boundaries exist. When you operate from that clarity, people can judge as aggressively as they want. It will not touch you, because you're not playing their game anymore. You're playing your own game. And in your game, their opinion is useful data, not binding direction. That's the shift. That's the law that changes everything. If this video helped you see social judgment through a different lens, click the like button. Subscribe if you want more practical protocols for navigating complex social dynamics, and leave a comment answering this specific question. Which of the 5 judgment signals have you experienced most frequently in your life? I read these comments carefully because they help me understand what to create next. Your pattern might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Thank you for watching this all the way through. That tells me you're serious about understanding how perception actually works. The principles we covered today are not theory. They're field-tested frameworks that work across every social context you'll encounter. Start with one protocol, master it, then add the others. You'll see the shift immediately.